Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look for ways we can work together to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. Today we have with us Doug Little. He's a longtime musician, singer, a longtime pastor, and currently he's working with the Free Will Baptist Foundation. And so, Doug, thank you for your long service to Free Will Baptist and to the kingdom, and thank you for taking the time to be with us here today.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure.
Now, when people think about Doug Little, most of them think about some of the songs you've written, think about you as a musician, but you were a longtime pastor in Arkansas, and you've got a heart for the church. You've got a heart for pastors. Let's talk a little bit about what some of the churches are facing today, because you're in a lot of churches working with the foundation, and you hear a lot from them. I hear a lot from churches saying, "Where have the musicians gone?" What is up with that?
Well, there's been it didn't happen suddenly. There has been a gradual shift over the last 30 years. When I went into full-time ministry right out of college, the model for church music was primarily live instrumentation, whether it was just a piano or a keyboard or perhaps just a guitar. There are churches that have always just used an acoustic guitar, but soundtracks weren't available. Production style things were not available, and as the music industry changed, which came first, the chicken or the egg, I'm not sure in this matter. Churches began to want, maybe because there was the availability and part of it also was the increase. It goes way back, but there was a time when Christian radio wasn't all that common, and so people didn't have access to hear new music and the style of music that many of our churches are enjoying today that would be considered the newer music. That had not yet developed with a worship band and those sorts of things. And so over the years, as those influences and opportunities began to grow and our churches began to gravitate that way, there was more of a desire, I suppose, on the part of young musicians in the church to learn to play the guitar rather than the piano. I learned to play the piano, but I also learned to play the guitar, but it was like that was the model, being a pianist and that being my primary instrument. I've always kind of putting in a plug there. But it takes a long time to develop that skill to that level. And so piano music in the schools, private piano lessons that I grew up taking began to be less and less, and what that resulted in was a lack of the young people growing up learning to play music. It's very difficult to transfer band instrument music skills to the church, except for the occasional trumpet solo or that sort of thing, unless a church has an orchestra. But the core instruments that are used to support a congregation or choir's music in terms of live is piano, keyboard kinds of things, and guitar. Those are the primary instruments. It's quicker to learn to play the guitar and more cool to the younger generation to play the guitar than it is the piano. But we are now at a point where the lack of upcoming keyboard proficient people, it's hurting us because especially with churches that are aging and congregations are older, perhaps they don't have young people, people that they have depended on to play the piano for their services have moved away or retired or gone on to glory. And so it's left a real hole in the church, not just the tiny churches, but even some of the medium and larger sized churches are struggling with that issue that I've been burdened about for a while, and the Music Commission's certainly aware and trying to figure out ways that we can provide support and encouragement.
So you started playing the piano when you were 9 years of age, I believe.
Yeah.
And you're a big advocate for people playing the piano. So I guess that's the first thing we would say is, hey, you see a young person playing the piano or have any interest, encourage them in that direction. We need more musicians and especially piano players. Mm-hmm. But also you alluded to some of the challenges, and I should have mentioned you've been part of the Music Commission since its inception. Part of what you're trying to do now is this is where churches are at. What can we do to help them in their current situation? And so talk with us a bit about some of the actions you've taken personally and the commission has taken to try to help our churches that find themselves without musicians right now.
Well, with the Music Commission, one of the critical things that we've been able to accomplish in the last few years is the creation of the website, FWBworship.com, where we have been able to put tutorials for church leaders, musicians, some basic things. It's a growing library that we hope to continue to add to as we find the interest. We've done some, all of us that are involved and music leaders across the denomination that are not necessarily elected to the Music Commission still have an influence and are looked to help. So those resources we're looking and working to continue to develop. Personally, I'm trying to do what I can short term because I became aware last year, which would have been 2022 at the National Convention, I was approached by two different pastors that pastored out in remote areas with no musicians at all to do anything, and they didn't claim to be singers themselves to even lead a congregation. And so there's very few opportunities. We're trying to discover what there are available. It depends on whether a church wants and has the means to connect with the internet, project either videos or PowerPoint slides and those kinds of things. There are, and I was burdened by that, and we're discussing things at the commission level that we can do. But I decided to take the bull by the horns and figure out a way that I could put a tool in the hands of people who had nothing to go on or very little. And so I've started doing soundtracks. It's the easiest way. I'm calling them worship tracks. But I went through the Rejoice hymn book and selected in sets of 10 songs that I felt like most of our people would like to sing if they're going to sing traditional hymns right out of the hymn book. There are copyright concerns, and that runs into license. If you use copyrighted material, you have to pay, and I didn't want to do that. So I selected songs that are in public domain, which means they were written long enough ago that the copyright opportunity for that song has expired, such as Amazing Grace. And I created soundtracks. I sat with the hymn book on my keyboard, recorded the song as if a congregation was singing it straight through using the hymn book, and then supplemented the instruments. It's not a full orchestration, but it's not just the piano either. And then I began and I went ahead and recorded as though I was leading the congregation from the pulpit, my voice as the song leader. I decided to go ahead and do the lyric slides with PowerPoint, and those there's an option for those to be projected while the soundtrack is playing, and it's all automatic. And then I began to put out asking for some feedback. A couple of churches that I knew that were needing to use hymns. There's lots. If a church has the opportunity to project things, there are opportunities for newer music online that churches can use. But some of the traditional hymns it's not so accessible, and so the ones that I knew were needing it, I asked them to use and give me some feedback. And then I reached out to the state leaders, telling them the idea that I had and giving them a sample of it and getting feedback. They were very responsive. And as that began, I got some great suggestions, which kind of resulted in me reworking the final options that people have. So these are in sets of 10. I'm calling them Favorite Hymns, Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I thought, well, if a church is needing this, then what are they going to do for invitation songs? So I did a special set of 10 of the more common invitation songs. And then I thought, well, okay, Christmas is coming. So I took 10 of the Christmas carols that are in the Rejoice hymn book, and I've done a set of Christmas carols as well. And those are available for the video to be used, with my leading it, or just the music without a song leader. But they're also available just as soundtracks, with or without the song leader.
That's great. So you've given them really a valuable tool, and you've given it to them inexpensively. So one thing you mentioned, you've got to have a license. Well, if something's in the public domain, these are all available, and so let's walk through that a little bit. So like, we've got Favorite Hymns, Volume 1. Well, that's got, you mentioned Amazing Grace, At Calvary, He Lives, and other songs. And so you've got 10 songs there. Let's say you grab up Volume 2. Well, that's got Count Your Blessings, He Hideth My Soul, Holy, 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 and a whole nother set. Volume 3 has Fairest Lord Jesus, He Keeps Me Singing. And then Volume 4, Down at the Cross, He Leadeth Me. Oh, you've given them a whole set, so we could learn some of these songs, or we've got ourselves a whole. We think of there's just 52, basically 52 services we're doing, and I do think we need to mention the invitation. So you say, I've got you set up for that too. Have thine own way. Jesus is calling, just as I am, and I love your favorite carols of Christmas, Angels We've Heard on High, Away in a Manger, and so many more. So what I hear you saying is you've got it set up where, okay, I don't have the internet, or I've got a slow download. For $30, they could get a thumb drive, plug that into the computer, play it through the sound system, they're set.
Yes.
Then they could, we can download, they could do that for $25.
Right.
And then you discount them if they order 3 or more sets. It ends up being a 10% discount. So it's a pretty good thing. Actually, it's a very good thing.
Thanks,
Doug.
There's so many options, and some churches really the best option for them would be to have the if they're just going to use the music without the video portion, to have it on a CD, which I can actually burn those onto a CD, or they can buy it and transfer it. I'm trying to make myself available to help churches who really don't have anybody that's really proficient with technology or some of those things. A lot of churches do. They don't need my help, but I'm available to help. And so if somebody's interested, I have had 4 or 5 contacts from churches since word about this went out. They've called, they've talked to me about it, asked questions. I've figured out what they really want, and then we can get the product to them.
That's great. And so you're thinking, how do I do this? Go to DougLittleSongs.com. You'll see some pictures of Doug there. You'll also go to the catalog, and you've got it set up where there's all kinds of things they can do. They can do a song search. They can see these various hymns that are laid out, and they can actually set up an account. So the other thing you mentioned is you've got a place where you reach out and say, hey, here's how you can contact you.
Yes.
And what I'm hearing and knowing about you is you basically look at what their needs are, and you're willing to talk to them and try to help them adapt and figure that out.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, email me. I don't mind getting texts or phone calls on my number, it's fine. Just let me know what I can do, and we'll try to help. And in the meantime, we're continuing to explore and work about opportunities that the commission can put together resources as well as training for people of what resources are available depending on their situation and how those can be accessed. So any of that people want to reach out to me or to any of the commission members, we're certainly welcome.
That's great. So they can email you at doug@douglittlesongs.com about commission or hey, I've got a suggestion for such and such. How about, could you help me with this, Doug?
Yes.
As far as the songs go. You alluded to it there, some of the training that the Music Commission does. Mm-hmm. And so maybe some pastors are listening. I know you all have tried to help churches. Maybe you're part of an association. You might look at seeing about reaching out to Pastor Doug and commission members about, hey, could you all help several of our churches? You all have done that kind of thing in the past as well.
Yeah, we can't teach people to play the piano in a weekend, but we can get a start on it. One of the things that I think is really nice about the worship tracks, and it's not necessarily finished. I'm taking a break now that I've got these ready, but I'm going to be looking at options for creating more. So if somebody has a song that they would like to have that done for, as long as it's not under copyright, I'm willing to go ahead and do that for them. But they're not just restricted for use for congregational in church. I was thinking, if I was, which I'm currently not, but the times that I would go to visit shut-ins or do a nursing home service, or we had Sunday school class that liked to sing, but there wasn't any piano in their room. There's all kinds, or home family devotions. There's all kinds of opportunities because these do not require the internet. Mm-hmm. That's the convenience factor. They can be used anywhere that somebody can play them.
I was thinking too about funerals.
Yes.
So many times they'll play. We won't name artists, but but this is, you could have your hymn of choice, and it's on the MP3 file. So you bring your zip drive to the funeral home or whatever. So really, have songs can travel is what you have here.
Yeah.
If you've got a device that plays an MP3 file, which is most of them these days, you can play them. And I mean, people can also, if they're into this, walking and listening once they've got it on their device.
Sure.
There's a lot to do. So really, we encourage folks to check out DougLittleSongs.com or DougLittleSongs.com actually, and look at the songs that are there. I do encourage folks, very reasonable. You've put a lot of work in this to download them if that works for you, or ask for buy the thumb drive, and then give some feedback at DougLittleSongs about, hey, I'd like to see X, and
sure.
Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, let me jump in with one final plug about piano.
Yes, please.
Piano is a core instrument. Doesn't have to be a young person. I caught myself to say a young person. I mean, it doesn't matter. People can learn to play the piano at any age. It's a basic instrument from which it provides the foundation to understand music and to be able, once a student has learned basic proficiency in the piano, if they want to play the drums, it helps them be a better drummer. If they want to play a band instrument, it helps them understand and do that well. If they want to play the guitar or the bass guitar or any of those other things, the piano is the core instrument. So if there are parents or grandparents or retirees out there, invest in the training of whoever is interested, particularly the younger generations. Encourage them. Everybody's our age has a story about having your parents made you take piano lessons and you hated it. Well, it's not for everybody, but even the basic, if it's just for a while, it provides a greater understanding and hopefully some enticement to go further in music, because we need musicians in our churches.
Absolutely.
We need people. I'm not demeaning in any way the people that are doing what they do now, because I love the guitars, I love the percussion, the drums, I love all of that. But a church that doesn't even have a piano is in a real problem. It's hard to be a pastor when your people struggle to even sing Amazing Grace, and when they do without any instruments, it's horrible. And then you get up and try to preach and have a sense of the Holy Spirit's presence and anointing on the service. It's a challenge, and there's no long-term or no short-term solution. But I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we could turn, as Free Will Baptist, we could turn the corner on training musicians for our churches.
Absolutely. So moms, dads, grandparents, uncles, and aunts, you see that young person, encourage them to take piano lessons, make that option for them. And you mentioned that used to happen a lot.
Yeah, my grandmother bought the piano I learned to play on.
And what a difference it makes. Even if they don't, they have to stick with it for it to really stick and to matter. But even if they don't, they've got some information there that helps them. As an aside, it helps them in so many ways. Academically,
yes,
it will help them, and even emotionally, it's a great help. There's a lot of good research out there on that as well. So that's a gap. The world is going in the opposite direction because it takes sustained activity and learning and concentration. But we need to get back to that. So, hey, thank you for that challenge, Doug, and hey, thank you for what you're doing to help us in the short run. You're not just saying learn the piano. You're saying learn the piano, and here's what you can do Sunday morning, to get you through this point where your services can be as effective as they can be. And so thank you for taking the time to do that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share about it. I just want to get the word out. They're
Absolutely.
there, they're available, and I'm glad that the Lord's helped me to be able to do it.
Well, thank you, and thank you, our listeners. And you heard the last phrase from Doug. He's trying to get the word out. So how about you helping us get the word out? Maybe take this podcast, share it with someone that you think would benefit from it. Maybe that grandparent or mom or dad that's got a child that could use piano lessons. Maybe you're even thinking about what you can do in a church, or you have limited musicians, or you're trying to take the music there to a nursing home, or just take it out on the road, so to speak. Use Brother Doug's information. It can be real helpful to us. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you,
Remember,
Brother Eddie.
every little thing we do matters. We're truly better together.